Let me tell you something that sounds absolutely impossible, yet I have seen it work so many times it has left me breathless with wonder. There is a law operating in your life right now, at this very moment, whether you know it or not, and it is more powerful than gravity, more reliable than the sunrise, and frankly, when you truly understand it, it can feel a little scary because of how much power it places directly into your hands. I am talking about the law of the word. Your words are not just sounds that vanish into the air. They are invisible architects building the very house you will live in tomorrow. Every single thing you say, especially about yourself, is a command to the universe. And the universe? It doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It simply says yes, always yes, to everything you decree. So, if you have been speaking words of lack, of fear, of impossibility, then, my dear friend, you have been ordering poverty, anxiety, and closed doors with the same certainty that someone orders breakfast at a restaurant. But here is the magnificent truth that will set you free. The moment you change your words, you change your world. Not someday, not eventually. The change begins the instant the new word leaves your lips. This is not philosophy. This is spiritual law, as precise and unyielding as mathematics. I spent years watching people suffer needlessly, watching them pray desperately for changes, while simultaneously declaring their defeat with every sentence. A woman would come to me and say, "I want prosperity, but I will never get ahead. These bills are killing me." And I would have to explain, as gently as I could, that she had just placed 2 orders with the universe. The second order, the one filled with conviction and feeling, was the one being fulfilled. The universe heard the power in her words of defeat and said, "Your word is my command." This is why so many prayers seem to go unanswered. It is not that God is withholding, it is that we are contradicting our own requests with the habitual words of our mouths. We are praying for health while declaring we always get sick this time of year. We are asking for love while announcing nobody really understands me. We are seeking success while proclaiming things never work out for me. Do you see the tragedy here? We are powerful beyond measure, but we are using that power against ourselves. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Florence, words are just words. It's what I do that matters. And I understand that belief, because I once held it myself. But then I began to notice something extraordinary. The people who spoke confidently of their good, even before seeing any evidence, were the ones who experienced miracles. Not occasionally. Consistently. I watched a man decree, "I am now shown my perfect opportunity," while he was unemployed and nearly penniless. Within 1 week, an opportunity found him, not the other way around, that transformed his entire financial situation. I saw a woman affirm, "I am harmoniously married to my ideal partner," when she had not been on a date in years. The shift in her circumstances was so swift it startled even me. These were not lucky people. They were people who understood that their word, spoken with faith and feeling, sets invisible forces into motion that must bring forth visible results. The divine law I am sharing with you today is this. You are decreeing your destiny with every word. Your word is your wand. It is the tool of creation you have been given, and most people are walking around casting spells of limitation on themselves all day long without realizing it. The power in your words is not metaphorical. It is literal. It is law. And when you truly grasp this, when you feel it in your bones, it can actually be frightening because you realize you have been the author of your own struggles. But that fear transforms quickly into the most liberating excitement you have ever known, because if you created the problems, with your words, you can create the solutions the exact same way. You are not a victim of circumstances, you are a creator of them. And the pen you write with is your own voice. I have seen this law work for thousands of people. I have watched it work in my own life in ways that defy all logic and reason. And now, I am going to show you exactly how to use it deliberately, consciously, powerfully, so that your fortune, the good that has been waiting for you all along, finally unlocks. Because it has been locked not by fate, not by other people, not by God withholding blessings, but by your own contradictory words. The moment you align your words with your desires, the lock springs open. What has seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Are you ready to speak a new world into existence? Then stay with me, because what I am about to share will change everything if you let it. You know, before I understood this law, I was like most people, tossed about by circumstances, feeling like life was something that happened to me rather than through me. I would look at successful people and think they were lucky or specially favored. I would see people in loving relationships and assume they had something I lacked. I did not yet understand that they were simply speaking a different language. Not English or French, but the language of faith, the language of positive decree, the language that the universe must respond to because it is law. When I finally discovered this truth, I felt almost angry at first. Why had no one told me? Why did I spend so many years declaring my limitations when I could have been declaring my freedom? But that anger softened into compassion. Compassion for myself and for all the others who simply did not know. And that is why I speak. That is why I teach. That is why I am here with you now. Because someone needs to tell you the truth about the power you possess. Let me explain how profoundly practical this law is. You do not need to wait for perfect circumstances to begin using it. You do not need confidence, money, connections, or a clear plan. You only need to change what you are saying. That is the only requirement. A woman once came to me in absolute desperation. She was about to lose her home. The eviction notice had been served. She had no money and no apparent way to get any. She was speaking words of terror, of ending up on the street, of failure and shame. I stopped her firmly and said, "From this moment forward, you will not speak one word of lack or fear. You will declare only your good." She looked at me like I had lost my mind. "Florence," she said, "that is not reality. I am about to be homeless. That is reality." And I said, "No, that is current circumstances. Reality is what you are creating right now with your words. If you continue to speak homelessness, you are pouring all your creative power into that outcome. Are you willing to try something different?" She had nothing to lose, so she agreed. For the next week, every time fear rose up, every time she wanted to complain or worry aloud, she instead declared, "I give thanks that the perfect plan is now revealed. I am secure, guided, and provided for. Something in me knows the way. The specifics of what happened still astonish me." An old friend called her out of nowhere, someone she had not spoken to in over a decade. In casual conversation, this friend mentioned she was looking for someone to house sit for 6 months while traveling. Not only was the housing free, but she offered to pay her for the service. During those 6 months, a career opportunity emerged that had been completely invisible before. Within a year, she was not only secure but thriving. She came back to me with tears in her eyes and said, "Florence, I spoke a different future into existence. I would have sworn on my life that I had no options, but my words created options that did not exist until I spoke them." This is not an isolated story. This is how the law works for anyone who applies it. Your subconscious mind is listening to every word you speak. It is incredibly literal and obedient. When you say, "I cannot afford this," it accepts that as an instruction and finds ways to make sure you cannot afford it. When you say, "I am always late," it makes certain you continue that pattern. When you say, "Nobody respects me at work," it will orchestrate situations to confirm that belief. Your subconscious does not judge whether your words are good for you. It simply makes them true. It is the most faithful servant you will ever have, but it needs clear, positive instructions. Most people give it terrible instructions all day long and then wonder why their lives reflect chaos and lack. You must become fiercely aware of what you are saying. You must catch yourself in the old negative patterns and immediately replace them with the new decree. I am not talking about lying to yourself or pretending problems do not exist. I am talking about speaking to the solution rather than empowering the problem. There is a vast difference. If you are unwell, you do not walk around saying, "I am sick, I am sick, I am sick," as if that repetition will somehow heal you. That is giving all your power to the illness. Instead, you declare, "I am filled with vitality and perfect health. Every cell in my body radiates divine wellness." You speak to the truth of your being, which is wholeness, rather than to the temporary condition, which is discord. This is not denial. This is alignment with the greater reality that exists in the invisible realm, the realm where all things are already perfect and whole, waiting only for your word to call them forth into the visible. Do you see how this changes everything? You are not at the mercy of anything or anyone when you understand this law. A person can speak against you, circumstances can look impossible, every logical reason can say no, and yet your affirmative word can override all of it. I have seen people declared incurable by doctors walk in perfect health. I have seen businesses on the brink of bankruptcy suddenly flooded with abundance. I have seen relationships everyone said were finished, restored to harmony and love. Not because the people involved were special, but because someone spoke the word of faith with conviction. Just one person holding firm to the affirmative decree can shift entire situations. That person can be you. That person must be you if you want to see your fortune unlock. Now, let me share something that might surprise you. This law works whether you believe in it or not. You have been using it your entire life. The question is not whether the law is real. The question is whether you are using it consciously and constructively or unconsciously and destructively. Every person is a creator. Every person is speaking their world into being. Some are creating beauty, freedom, and abundance. Others are creating struggle, lack, and suffering. Same law, different words. If your life is not what you want it to be, I can tell you with absolute certainty that your words have not matched your desires. There is a disconnect between what you say you want and what you are actually declaring. And the universe, being absolutely faithful to law, is giving you what you declare, not what you wish. This is why affirmations are so extraordinarily powerful when done correctly. An affirmation is not a hopeful wish. It is a decree. It is you exercising your spiritual authority. When you say, "I am now receiving all the abundance that is mine by divine right," you are not begging or hoping. You are commanding. You are stating a spiritual truth and insisting that it manifest in your experience. But here is where most people stumble. They say the affirmation a few times without feeling or conviction, and when nothing changes immediately, they say, "See, this does not work." But they would never plant a seed, then dig it up the next day and complain it has not become a tree. There is a period between the spoken word and the visible manifestation. That period is where your faith is tested. That period is where you must hold steady, continuing to speak the word, refusing to let contradictory statements cancel your decree. I want you to imagine your words as seeds. Every positive, faith-filled statement is a seed of good you are planting in the invisible soil of the universe. If you plant it and then immediately dig it up with doubt and negative talk, it cannot grow. But if you plant it and protect it, watering it with continued affirmation and expectation, it must break through into your visible world as a manifestation. This is law. This is how creation works. You do not need to know how it will happen. You do not need to figure out the path. You only need to speak the word and trust that infinite intelligence knows exactly how to bring it about. Your job is the word. The universe's job is the way. Let me tell you about a man who came to me completely convinced he was a failure. He had tried multiple businesses, and each had collapsed. He was in debt, depressed, and certain that success was not meant for him. His entire vocabulary was saturated with failure language. "I always fail. Nothing works for me. I am just not cut out for business." These were his constant declarations. I explained to him that he was using the law of the word perfectly, but in reverse. He was commanding failure, and the universe was obediently delivering it. He was shocked. He had thought he was just being realistic, just acknowledging the facts. I told him the facts are effects of previous thoughts and words, and if he continued to speak them, he would continue to experience them. But if he changed his word right now, the cycle could break. He was skeptical but desperate enough to try. I gave him one affirmation to speak morning and night with feeling. "My success is assured because I am divinely guided in all my ways. Every decision I make leads to prosperity." I asked him to say it, looking in the mirror, with his hand over his heart, feeling the truth of those words saturating every cell of his being. Within 3 weeks, something extraordinary happened. He called me, his voice trembling with excitement. "Florence," he said, "I don't know how to explain this, but suddenly I'm seeing opportunities I was blind to before. A colleague mentioned a project I would have normally dismissed as too risky, but this time, something told me to pursue it. The deal closed yesterday. It's the biggest commission of my career. This is not magic, my friend. This is law. The law of mind in action." You see, that man didn't need to learn a new skill. He didn't need more connections or better timing. He needed to change the picture he held of himself in his mind. The moment he began to see himself as divinely guided, as someone whose success was assured, his entire energy shifted. And the world, being the perfect mirror that it is, reflected that new image back to him. Now, I want you to understand something crucial here. When I say affirm, I don't mean mindlessly repeating empty words like a parrot. Words without feeling are like seeds without water, they cannot grow. You must feel the truth of what you're declaring. You must speak with conviction, with authority, as though you're reminding the universe of a fact it already knows. Your subconscious mind doesn't argue, it doesn't debate. It simply accepts what you persistently impress upon it. If you repeatedly tell it you're unlucky, it says, "Very well, unlucky you shall be." If you persistently declare yourself blessed and guided, it responds, "So be it." This is why affirmations, when spoken with conviction, are not mere positive thinking. They are commands to the divine intelligence within you. They are seed thoughts planted in the garden of your subconscious mind. And just as surely as an apple seed produces an apple tree, your persistent thoughts produce corresponding conditions. I once knew a woman who was buried in debt. Collection letters arrived daily. The telephone rang with creditors' demands. She came to me in desperation, asking what metaphysical truth could possibly help her now. I told her, "Stop rehearsing your poverty. Stop telling the story of what you lack. Begin this very moment to speak only of abundance." She looked at me as though I'd lost my senses. "But the bills are real," she protested. "The debt collectors are real. How can I deny what's right in front of me?" "I'm not asking you to deny facts," I replied. "I'm asking you to stop energizing them with your words and attention. There is a higher truth than your current circumstances, the truth that infinite supply is your divine inheritance. Speak that truth. Live from that truth." Reluctantly, she agreed. Every time fear whispered, "You're going under," she countered with, "I am a channel of God's limitless abundance." When panic tried to grip her, she declared, "Unexpected income comes to me from God." Expected and unexpected sources. She stopped complaining about her situation to friends. She stopped mentally calculating and recalculating what she owed. Within 3 months, her financial situation had completely transformed. An unexpected inheritance came through. A former employer discovered they owed her back pay. New opportunities appeared seemingly out of nowhere. The debt that had seemed insurmountable dissolved. Was this magic? No. It was law, spiritual law, as reliable as the law of gravity. She had changed the vibration of her consciousness. She had stopped feeding the problem and began nourishing the solution. Your subconscious mind responded accordingly, rearranging circumstances to match her new mental atmosphere. Now, this is where so many people stumble. They change their thinking for a day, maybe 2, and when nothing appears to shift immediately, they throw up their hands and say, "See? This doesn't work." But I'm telling you right now, your demonstration is on its way, the moment you truly change your inner attitude. The lag time between your mental shift and the physical manifestation is simply the universe rearranging itself to meet your new frequency. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every few hours to check if it's growing. You water it, give it sunlight, and trust the invisible process happening beneath the soil. Your desires are the same way. Once you've planted the seed of your new thought pattern, your job is to maintain the consciousness of already having it. Not hoping for it, not wishing for it. Knowing it's yours. I want you to understand something vital. Your word is your wand. Every statement you make about yourself, every declaration you speak aloud or think silently, is casting a spell over your life. When you say, "I never have enough money," you're giving your subconscious mind a direct command. When you say, "I always get sick this time of year," you're programming your body for illness. But when you claim, "God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace and in perfect ways," you've just issued a completely different order to the universe. I knew a man who transformed his entire financial situation through this principle. He was drowning in debt, bill collectors calling constantly, no apparent way out. Someone taught him to speak this statement every single day. "I am a magnet for money. Prosperity flows to me from expected and unexpected sources." He felt foolish at first. His logical mind screamed that it was nonsense. But he persisted. Within 3 months, he received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative he barely knew existed. Coincidence? I think not. He had changed the frequency of his consciousness, and the universe responded in kind. Here's what you must grasp. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one vividly imagined with emotional intensity. When you rehearse lack, worry, and limitation in your mind, your subconscious accepts that as your desired reality and works tirelessly to create more of it. But when you impress upon it images of abundance, health, and joy felt deeply, with genuine emotion, it goes to work immediately to manifest that instead. This is why affirmations alone rarely work for people. They stand in front of a mirror saying, I am wealthy, while their stomach churns with anxiety about next month's rent. The words are positive, but the emotional signature is fear and lack, and it's the feeling that the subconscious receives as the instruction. You must learn to feel your way into the new reality before it manifests. This is not pretending. This is not lying to yourself. This is impressing upon the creative medium of your subconscious the experience you intend to have. When you can sit quietly and feel genuine gratitude for the healing that hasn't yet appeared in your body, when you can feel authentic excitement about the opportunity that hasn't yet knocked on your door, when you can rest in the relief of financial freedom before a single extra dollar arrives, that is when you've become a true co-creator with the divine. I'll share something that transformed my own understanding. Years ago, I was helping a woman who desperately wanted to marry, but she was consumed with bitterness about being alone. Every thought was about what she didn't have. I told her, "You must prepare the guest room." She looked at me as though I'd lost my mind. But I explained, "Act as if your good is already on its way. Make space for it." She began setting her life in order not from desperation, but from expectation. She cleared out half her closet. She bought an extra set of towels. She began speaking to this future partner in her mind with affection, not with the frantic energy of lack, but with the calm assurance of someone who knows their beloved is simply delayed in traffic. Within 4 months, she met the man who became her husband. The outer preparation had shifted her inner state from wanting to having, and that shift in consciousness was the bridge across which her good could travel. The third preparation is the preparation of faith This is perhaps the most subtle, yet the most powerful of all preparations, for faith is not blind belief. It is the intuitive knowing that what you have claimed in consciousness must appear in form. I once worked with a woman who desired to open a spiritual center, a place where people could gather for healing and truth. She had no building, no funds, no congregation, nothing but the vision burning bright within her soul. Many would have called her foolish. But she understood this law. Faith is not waiting for evidence before you believe. Faith is acting as though the thing is done while the evidence is still invisible. So she began to prepare. She drew up plans for classes she would teach. She designed a schedule of services. She created literature describing programs that did not yet exist in a building she had not yet seen. Her friends thought her quite mad, spending hours planning for something that had no physical reality. But she was operating under a different law, the law that says preparation itself generates the magnetic force that draws the thing to you. Within 6 months, a woman approached her who owned a beautiful building and wanted to donate its use for spiritual work. The center manifested not because she waited in passive hope, but because her active faith had created the vibrational match to her desire. The preparation had been the proof of her faith, and her faith had been the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. When you prepare for your good, you are not trying to force the universe to comply with your wishes. You are aligning yourself with the invisible currents that are already flowing toward you. You are saying to the divine intelligence that governs all things, I am ready. I have made room. I have set the table. I am prepared to receive. And the universe, which is always responsive to our consciousness, must respond in kind. For this is the law, as within, so without, as in consciousness, so in manifestation. When you prepare, you shift from hoping your good will come to knowing it is already on its way. I knew a woman who lived in poverty consciousness while praying for prosperity. She would say affirmations about wealth, But when an unexpected check arrived in the mail, she immediately said, "Oh, this won't last. Something will happen, and I'll lose it all." And do you know what happened? Within days, an unexpected expense arose that consumed the entire amount. She had ordered disaster through her words and beliefs, even while her prayers were asking for abundance. The universe is impersonal. It responds to your dominant vibration, not your occasional wishes. You cannot think poverty and demonstrate prosperity. You cannot speak limitation and experience expansion. The law works with mathematical precision, whether you understand it or not, whether you believe it or not. This is why I tell you, watch your words as you would watch a child playing near a fire. Your word is your wand, and you are constantly casting spells of creation or destruction. When you say, "I can't afford it," you are instructing the universe in limitation. When you say, "I never have enough time," you are ordering scarcity into your experience. When you say, "I always get sick in winter," you are programming your body for illness. But here is the glorious truth. You can change your words at any moment, and in changing your words, you change your world. Right now, in this very instant, you can begin speaking your good into existence. You can say, "I am guided to right action. I am shown the way. My supply comes from God, and God's supply is endless and immediate." Do not wait until conditions are perfect to speak your word of truth. Speak it now, especially when circumstances seem to contradict it. This is not denial of reality. This is creation of a new reality. You are not lying. You are prophesying your good. You are calling those things that are not as though they were, until they are. I have watched this principle transform lives that seemed beyond redemption. The alcoholic who declared, "I am free," even while shaking with desire. The debtor who affirmed, "All my needs are met," even while creditors called. The lonely heart who stated, "I am surrounded by love," even while sitting alone. They didn't wait for evidence to believe. They believed, and the evidence came running. This is what metaphysics truly means. Not positive thinking, not visualization techniques, not affirmation marathons, but the absolute, unshakable conviction that the invisible world is more real than the visible one. You see, most people have it backwards. They think the physical world creates their reality, and thoughts are just byproducts of that reality. So they wait for their bank account to grow before they can feel abundant. They wait for the relationship to appear before they can feel loved. They wait for the diagnosis to change before they can feel healthy. But the metaphysician knows the truth. Thought is cause. The physical world is effect. And here's what makes this so powerful. Once you truly grasp this, once you really get it in your bones, you become utterly fearless. Because you realize that no condition, no circumstance, no situation has any power except what you give it through your recognition of it. The cancer only has power if you bow to it in your mind. The debt only has dominion if you accept it as your master in consciousness. The loneliness only imprisons you if you agree with its verdict in your thoughts. But the moment you withdraw your mental agreement, the moment you stop feeding it with your fear and acceptance, it begins to dissolve. Not because you've fought it, not because you've struggled against it, but because you've stopped giving it the only thing that kept it alive, your belief in its reality and permanence. I watched a woman do this with poverty that had plagued her family for 3 generations. Everyone told her it was genetic, inevitable, just the way things were. But she looked at that ancestral pattern and said, "No more. It ends with me." She didn't fight it. She didn't struggle against it. She simply stopped agreeing with it. She stopped telling the story of family poverty. She stopped explaining why she couldn't have money. She stopped participating in the family narrative of lack. And within 2 years, everything had shifted. Not through hard work alone, not through lucky breaks, but through a fundamental change in consciousness that rearranged her entire reality. This is the power you have. This is the truth they don't teach you in school. I want to leave you with something practical. A way to begin this transformation right now, in this moment. First, understand that you don't need to fix your entire life before you can start speaking your word. You don't need to have it all figured out. You simply need to make a choice, a decision, that from this moment forward, you will no longer be a victim to circumstances, but a creator of them. Start with one area, one single area where you've been tolerating less than what you deserve. Maybe it's a relationship that drains you. Maybe it's a financial situation that keeps you up at night. Maybe it's a health challenge that seems insurmountable. Take that one area and speak your word over it. Not from a place of fear or desperation, but from a place of absolute knowing. Don't beg. Don't plead. Simply state what is true in the spiritual realm and watch it manifest in the physical. Say it out loud. I give thanks that the perfect solution now appears. The infinite intelligence within me knows exactly what to do, and I am guided to take the right action at the right time. Notice I said, give thanks. Not, I hope, or I wish, or maybe someday. You give thanks because it's already done in the invisible. The spiritual precedes the physical, always. Here's what happens when you do this consistently. The universe begins to rearrange itself around your word. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. People appear with exactly what you need. Opportunities present themselves in the most unexpected ways. This isn't magic. This is law. This is how reality actually works when you stop fighting against it and start flowing with it. And here's the beautiful part. The more you practice this, the stronger you become. Your faith muscle grows. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. What once filled you with anxiety now fills you with calm certainty. You begin to see every challenge not as a problem, but as an opportunity to demonstrate your understanding of spiritual law. You welcome the tests, because you know they're just showing you where you still have remnants of old thinking that need to be cleared out.